I used to sympathize with those women their man will leave them for another woman. Someone that you have built with will just get up one day and leave. Chasing after another lady who may not even be up to your own standards. I never thought I could be one of those women, not ever, not so soon. But look at me here today, sharing my own story. But not with tears or as a broken woman. But as a new person. If you are one of those women out there that men had put through a lot, I'm sending red heart and hugs for you. If you haven't gotten over it yet, please, my love, you deserve better. Take care of yourself and move on. You are stronger than you think. My name is Celine. And this is my story. Everyone thought I had a perfect life. From the outside, my marriage to Daniel looked like a fairy tale, one built on love, trust, and success. We lived in a beautiful home, drove luxury cars, and attended the best events in town. I was living my dream life with the kind of man I wanted. No, I thought I wanted. I never dreamed that one day I will be begging for his attention. I thought we had it all figured out. But gradually, without me even knowing it, he is slipping away. The suffocating loneliness that crept into my soul every night. The man I loved more than anything had slowly become a stranger to me. I remember the exact moment I first felt it, like a crack in a glass, a tiny fracture that would soon shatter everything I believed in. It was a Tuesday night. I had prepared Daniel's favorite meal, jollof rice with grilled chicken, perfectly seasoned, just the way he liked it. I set the table, lit the scented candles, and waited. It was our anniversary. I waited. And waited. By 11 p.m., the food had gone cold, the candles had melted halfway, and my heart felt like lead in my chest. I called his phone. No answer. I texted. Where are you? He replied almost instantly. Busy. Don't wait up. I stared at my phone, my fingers trembling. Don't wait up? For the past few months, he had been coming home later than usual. At first, I ignored it. He was a hard-working man, running a growing business. But soon, the late nights turned into unexplained business trips. The laughter we once shared disappeared. His kisses became quick and distant. Something was wrong. I just didn't know what yet. That night, when he finally walked through the door at 2 a.m., I was still awake. I watched him quietly as he loosened his tie and threw his jacket on the couch. Daniel, I called softly. He barely glanced at me. Celine, not tonight. I'm tired. I swallowed hard. Tired? He barely looked at me anymore. He barely touched me. I wanted to ask him why. Our anniversary day. I wanted to ask him if there was someone else. If his heart had already left me. But I was too scared to hear the answer. So instead, I whispered, I miss us. For the first time that night, he actually looked at me. He sighed and ran a hand over his face. Celine, you overthink too much. Everything is fine. I have a growing business I'm running. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But deep down, I knew. I just didn't realize that my perfect marriage was already falling apart. It started as a feeling, an ache deep in my bones. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself Daniel loved me, that he was just going through stress. But my instincts wouldn't shut up. One evening, after yet another late meeting, I found myself doing something I had never done before. I picked up his suit jacket and just as I was about to throw it into the laundry basket, a scent hit me. Floral. Feminine. Expensive. Not mine. I held the jacket to my nose, inhaling deeply. My stomach twisted. Lipstick. Red. Stained on the collar. My entire body went cold. I clenched my fists. No. No, not Daniel. But then I heard it, his phone buzzing on the nightstand. I hesitated for half a second before picking it up. The screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. Tonight was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. Same time tomorrow? Red heart. I dropped the phone like it burned me. My chest felt tight. My hands trembled. I wanted to scream. I wanted to wake him up and throw the phone in his face. But instead, I sat there, staring at the message over and over again, as if I could change the words by sheer willpower. Daniel. My husband. My everything. Cheating. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would break through my ribs. Tears blurred my vision, but I refused to cry. Not yet. Not until I had proof. The next morning, I followed him. I sat in my car, parked a few meters away from a fancy restaurant. And then, I saw him. Laughing. Smiling. With her. A tall, elegant woman, dressed in a red gown. The same woman he had told me was just a business associate. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. So this was it. The proof. I could have walked away. I could have driven home and broken down in tears. But I didn't. Instead, I stepped out of the car. I was going to confront him. Right here. Right now. The moment I walked into the restaurant, my eyes found him. Daniel was sitting across from her, his hand resting on hers, his face full of warmth, the warmth he used to reserve for me. My pulse roared in my ears as I walked up to them. Daniel. The sound of my voice sent a jolt through his body. He turned around, his face draining of color. The woman frowned, glancing between us. Daniel? Who is she? I let out a bitter laugh. Oh, sweetheart, I'm his wife. Silence. Daniel shot up from his seat, forcing a fake smile. Celine, let's not do this here. No, let's do it here. My voice was sharp. Tell me, Daniel, how long? He sighed heavily, rubbing his temples as if I was the problem. Celine, you're embarrassing yourself. I took a step closer, my hands shaking. Embarrassing myself? He turned to the woman with an apologetic smile. I'm sorry about this, baby. Baby. My breath hitched. My whole world tilted. And then, he said the words that shattered me completely. Celine, we've been unhappy for a long time. You suffocate me. You're always nagging, always checking on me. This is why I need space. This is why I need someone who understands me. Tears burned my eyes. He wasn't even denying it. He was blaming me. My lips parted. So it's my fault? Daniel exhaled, as if I was exhausting him. I didn't say that. But honestly, Celine, I've had enough. Maybe it's time we admit this isn't working. Right there. In front of everyone. He ended our marriage. I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. I see. Then I turned and walked out. I held it together until I reached my car. And then I collapsed, sobbing harder than I ever had before. The man I had loved was gone. I didn't think it could get worse. I thought the betrayal was enough. But I was wrong. Because Daniel wasn't just leaving me, he was erasing me. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. A flood of messages, missed calls, and notifications filled my screen. My heart pounded as I opened the first one. Bestie, are you okay? I just saw the news. Celine, I don't know how to tell you this, but check Instagram. Now. I hesitated. My fingers felt numb as I typed Daniel's name into the search bar. And there it was. A photo of Daniel and her. Dressed in matching outfits. In front of a brand new mansion. Caption, a new beginning with the woman who truly understands me. Red heart. The woman who truly understands him? My stomach turned. Had he been waiting for this moment? Planning it? He had only moved out of our home last night. And now he was posing for pictures with another woman? I scrolled through the comments, my hands shaking. Wait, wasn't he married? So this is why he was always traveling. Men will disgrace you in 4K. Celine was always too clingy. This new babe is an upgrade. Tears blurred my vision. My own life had become a spectacle for the world to mock. Daniel had humiliated me in the worst way possible. And the worst part? He didn't even care. I locked myself inside the house for days. No calls. No texts. Nothing. I thought maybe my in-laws would reach out. Maybe my so-called friends would show up. But no one did. I was officially invisible. One evening, I finally mustered the strength to leave the house. I needed groceries, just something to make me feel normal again. As I walked through the aisles, I overheard whispers. That's her. Daniel's ex-wife. I heard she wasn't satisfying him at home. Imagine investing in a man only for him to upgrade to a newer model. I turned the corner and froze. Standing at the checkout counter was Daniel's mother. My ex-mother-in-law. The woman who once called me the perfect daughter. Our eyes me. But she looked away. Pretended not to know me. My heart shattered all over again. I wasn't just losing my marriage, I was losing everything. I walked out of that store with nothing. Not even my dignity. That was the moment I realized I had hit rock bottom. I had lost everything. My husband. My dignity. Even the people who once claimed to love me. I spent days trapped in my own pain, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I did wrong. Was I really the problem? Did I deserve to be humiliated and tossed aside like trash? One night, as I lay on my bed, surrounded by tear-stained pillows, I realized something. I had two choices. I could stay broken. Or I could rebuild myself. Daniel may have shattered my world, but he would not destroy me. That night, I made a decision. I was going to become a woman he would regret losing for the rest of his life. The first step was taking back my power. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at the woman staring back at me. She was tired. Weak. Lost. That woman had to die. I changed my hair. Styled it differently. I changed my wardrobe. I went back to school, enrolled in a business management course. If Daniel could build an empire, so could I. I started hitting the gym, working on my body, not for any man, but for myself. I reconnected with old friends, the ones who truly cared. I stopped checking his social media. Stopped caring about his life. And for the first time in years, I smiled. Months passed, and I transformed into a new version of myself. One evening, I walked into a luxurious 5-star hotel for a business seminar. My confidence was unmatched. My beauty? Unstoppable. I was standing at the bar when I felt eyes on me. Slowly, I turned. And there he was. Daniel. His drink froze midway to his lips. His eyes widened as he took me in. The woman he left behind was now untouchable. I smirked, lifting my glass in a toast. I had one. Daniel's eyes were glued to me, his shock so obvious it almost made me laugh. He wasn't expecting this. He wasn't expecting me. Not the broken woman he left behind. Not the wife he humiliated. But a new woman. Powerful. Unstoppable. Untouchable. I took a slow sip of my drink, letting the moment sink in. He was still staring. Good. Let him. He hesitated for a moment, then got up and walked towards me. Celine? His voice was uncertain, almost careful. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. Daniel. Long time. His gaze traveled over me, and I could see the gears turning in his mind. This wasn't the same Celine who cried over him. This was a woman he didn't recognize. Wow. You look, he paused, as if struggling to find the words. Better? I finished for him, raising a brow. He chuckled nervously. I was going to say different. Same thing. I saw the shift in his eyes. The realization. The regret. He had lost me. He rubbed his neck, something he always did when he was nervous. Celine, I was hoping we could talk. I tilted my head, pretending to think. Talk? About what? Your new life? Or your new woman? His jaw tightened. Celine, I know I hurt you. I laughed softly. Hurt me? Daniel, you didn't just hurt me. You destroyed me. But guess what? I leaned in slightly. I rebuilt myself. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. He didn't like this version of me. The one who wasn't begging. The one who wasn't crying. The one who no longer needed him. Can we start over? His voice was barely a whisper. I stared at him for a long moment, then smiled. No, Daniel. We can't. I picked up my purse, turned my back on him, and walked away. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly free. Walking away from Daniel that night felt like breaking free from chains I didn't even know I was still carrying. For months, I had worked on myself. I had built a new life, a new business, a new Celine. And now, Daniel wanted back in? Not a chance. But fate? Fate had other plans. Because Daniel wasn't just about to regret losing me, he was about to lose everything. A few weeks later, I got a message from an old friend. Celine, have you heard? Daniel is in trouble. I raised an eyebrow, sipping my coffee as I typed back. What kind of trouble? Massive business scandal. His company is collapsing. Investors are pulling out. And guess what? His new woman? She's gone. I smirked. Karma always arrives on time. I didn't check his social media often, but this deserved a look. I searched his name. And there it was. News headlines. Articles. Reports. Ex-billionaire Daniel exposed for fraud, facing bankruptcy. Daniel's mysterious new lover leaves him as his wealth crumbles. I clicked on his profile. The once proud man who had flaunted his new relationship, his money, his upgrade for me? Gone. No new posts. No flashy lifestyle. Just silence. And then, I saw it. A message. From him. Celine, can we talk? I laughed. Talk? Now? I agreed to meet him. Not because I wanted him back, but because I wanted to see his downfall with my own eyes. I walked into the cafe where we had arranged to meet. He was already there, sitting in the corner. He looked different. No designer suit. No expensive watch. Just a man who had lost everything. When he saw me, his eyes lit up for a second. Celine. I sat down, crossing my legs. Daniel. He exhaled, running a hand over his face. I messed up. I leaned back, sipping my drink. You think? He swallowed hard. I lost everything. The business, the house, even my so-called friends. I said nothing. I should have never left you, Celine. I see that now. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I tilted my head. Regret. It had finally hit him. I want another chance. His voice was soft, almost pleading. I can be better. We can start over. I chuckled. Daniel, do you know the difference between us? He frowned. What? I leaned in. When you left me, I built myself. When she left you, you crumbled. His jaw tightened. I don't need you, Daniel. I never did. But now? Now, you need me. I picked up my purse, stood up, and looked him dead in the eyes. But guess what? I don't do second chances. I walked out of that cafe, feeling lighter than I ever had before. Daniel had lost everything. But me? I had just begun. 2 years had passed. 2 years since I walked away from Daniel for good. 2 years since I found myself. I had built a business that thrived, a life that no longer revolved around pleasing a man who never deserved me. And love? I had decided I was done with it. Until he came along. I met Jason at a charity event. I had been invited as a guest speaker, sharing my journey of resilience, of rising from the ashes of betrayal. As I spoke, my eyes drifted through the crowd until they landed on him. Tall. Caramel-skinned. Well-groomed. Sharp, yet kind eyes that held an intensity I wasn't used to. And when he smiled, it was over. After the event, he approached me. That was inspiring, he said, offering his hand. I shook it, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. A spark. We talked for a while and exchanged numbers. Jason was different. He wasn't rushing anything. He didn't try to buy me with gifts or impress me with his wealth, even though I later learned he was a successful architect. Instead, he listened. Really listened. He took me on simple dates, sunset walks, quiet dinners, conversations that stretched into the night. "Celine," he said one evening as we sat by the beach, "I don't want to fix you. I just want to love you the way you deserve." I blinked back tears. No man had ever said that to me. For the first time, I let my walls crumble. I let him in. 3 years later, I stood in front of a mirror, dressed in an elegant wedding gown. Not because I needed validation. Not because I was afraid of being alone. But because I had found love the right way. Jason and I built a home filled with laughter, peace, and respect. And when I held our baby boy, JJ, in my arms for the first time, I knew. Everything I went through led me to this moment. To real love. To happiness.